I've paid over $30,000 to Nicolas Cole, and here's the truth. It's been worth every penny. So in this document that I'm going to walk you through, this video, I'm going to show you something like 42 lessons, and these are applicable, yes, to content or ghostwriting agencies like mine, but they're also applicable to any other types of agencies or service businesses. And a lot of these lessons are applicable even beyond that, to people that are working jobs or potentially to other types of businesses as well. So I'll walk you through a lot of unique insights that I've learned and I've paid a premium for. Obviously, these are just my takeaways. So I went ahead, I spent probably 5 hours compiling all of the notes that I've taken over the past, call it 2 years, and put them all together here for you as the most valuable insights and takeaways. Of course, just these, if all you got was this document, I wouldn't pay $30,000 for this. But because I've actually internalized a lot of these lessons, it's been well worth the money for me. So let me start by walking you through what I've personally invested in, a little bit about my journey. So I originally went super viral on Twitter in end of 2021, got over 1 million views just on a Saturday. I went to a football game, a local college football game that night, and I realized there's 60,000 people sitting here in the stadium. And my post from that day had received more than 20 times the views of the number of people who were in that football stadium. And that really just blew my mind, the scale of the internet and the power of writing online. And it was a couple months after that I pivoted out of a mortgage business that I was running, and I decided to start ghostwriting. So I first ghostwrote for another agency owner, and I just did some freelance writing for them. And then 2 months after that, I took my first client, which was in June of 2022. And here we are 3 years later. So where Nicolas Cole gets involved is they launched what they called the Ghostwriting Intensive in February of 2023. It was a $4,800 program. Now, they had some other programs before, but they'd never been that interesting to me because it was for beginners. But because this was ghostwriting specific, and I knew Cole he was one of the few people who actually had experience ghostwriting. He built a $180K per month ghostwriting agency. I decided, you know what, might as well learn. And the truth was I was doing X or Twitter ghostwriting, and they were teaching people how to do educational email courses, but I thought might as well build some more skills. And so I bought it, and I committed to being the best student possible and getting a return on my investment. And so within the first month, I actually had sold 2 educational email courses at $5,000 each and basically doubled what I had invested. And so that was great. After participating in the cohort, I kept showing up because they had weekly live calls. And I was just asking questions and trying to get help and trying to improve. They later introduced a backend program called Velocity. This no longer exists, but it was there for a time. And it was to help the kind of solo premium ghostwriters. I'd worked with a few writers, but I was mostly solo, build agencies. And so the idea was help you go from, call it $20K a month to $50K a month and get out of the fulfillment. And it was a 12-month agreement for $2K a month, or you could pay up front and get the year for $20K. I opted for the monthly. You can see this was a screenshot of my payments. The $2,000 payment was for Velocity. The $20 payments you see was for a paid subscription to their newsletter. And then for that program, they had bi-weekly calls, and I would also send, because I was paying a premium, I really wanted to get my value. And so I would send a 10 to 15 minute weekly Loom video to Cole. I'd ask questions, I'd explain stuff that was going on with my business, and he'd respond every week and get back to me. So a lot of the lessons I share will come from that. Finally, they retired Velocity, and they switched it to something called Liftoff. That's $500 per month. And I continue to be a paying member there. I don't go do a lot of the live calls, but I still like to communicate with Cole and get some advice here and there. And so that's why I pay for it. In addition, I bought a couple of their different products, Category Newsletter Creator, 7-Figure Writers. So that is how I've paid the $30,000 plus. I've learned a lot between all of these, and I've spent a lot of money. And you might ask if it's worth it. It's a lot of money, and I don't think everyone needs to pay this amount of money to, build a business. I think you can build it on your own. And I am just a fan of paying to speed up my learning. My logic was, okay, if I pay $2,000 a month and I could go faster from $20,000 to $50,000 per month than I would on my own, then it easily pays for itself. And that was able to happen and relatively quickly. So yeah, earn back the investment many times over. It's great to have some smart people with experience in your space that can help you make decisions. I did achieve the objectives of their front end and their back end program, and I avoided several mistakes along the way. Amazing. So we'll go through, I separated these lessons by 4 different categories. So the Premium Ghostwriting Academy curriculum and live calls, the Velocity curriculum, live calls, and one-on-one Loom videos. That's where I learned these lessons that I'm going to now share with you. So, so first, they had a great onboarding experience. So it was just really solid. Like, they didn't assume that you knew how to use Slack. They didn't assume that you knew how to use Notion. And so they just explained things very simply for everybody. And even though I already was comfortable with Slack and with Notion, there were a few different things that I wasn't aware of that the onboarding did make me aware of. And so I really liked that, and it realized I could improve my own onboarding process. Second, there was a section talking about the different paths that you could take as a ghostwriter. And I thought it was really interesting. This is great for any freelancers. So they kind of give the option, social ghostwriting, you could do educational email courses, you could do email ghostwriting. I've done some of all 3, but I've focused on social ghostwriting. Then they talk about how you can scale in different ways as an agency, specifically ghostwriting, but like I said, any type of freelancer. So you can sell one service to many clients. So Facebook ad buying, for example, and you sell it across a bunch of different clients, and it's just kind of copy and paste. Or you could sell many services to one client. So this would be like if you're the CMO of a business, or maybe you have 2 different clients and you do Facebook ads and you do Google ads and you do content, and you can scale that way. I opted for the first, looking for some more efficiencies. And then as far as charging, I thought this was really interesting. For writers, level 1 is charging per word, level 2 is per hour, level 3 is per month, level 4 is per asset, level 5 is per outcome. So I actually do per month, but I'm doing it in a way that, makes a lot of sense. And so I would say maybe I'd switch these. I'd say I'm at level 4. I think it'd be better than if I'm charging per like LinkedIn post. I don't think it would be nearly as lucrative as what I'm doing. Okay. So so this is just an interesting note. Level 5. So when you're charging per outcome, and I've had some experience doing rev shares, and the tough part is the clients that you want to do rev shares with never want to do rev shares with you. And the ones that don't want to, that would love to do rev shares are the people it usually doesn't end up working with. And so you have to be really careful that you're not, doing a bunch of free work and someone else is getting all of the value. Then finally, the 5 paths to scale that he talks about as a ghostwriter is you could be high end. So think Mark Manson doing Will Smith's book, the guru model. I hate that word, but basically selling consulting, selling info. Well, I guess it's just selling consulting and your expertise, like individually to clients, one-on-one. The boutique, so that's like a $500K to $1.5 million a year agency. And Cole recommends a lot of people stopping there because there's something called the Valley of Death, which I'll get into a little bit later. Then the mass market agency. So this is where you go kind of balls to the wall to scale it as much as you can and get across the other side of the Valley of Death. And then the education model, where you build your own audience and you sell them services and digital products. So I opted for number 3. I wanted to build a lifestyle boutique agency. Okay, 3. So practice what you preach. This was just a good lesson that I was already aware of, but I'm going to sell social ghostwriting. I should write my own social content. 4, free work. So also been familiar with the idea of free work and free consulting, but this drove it home for me. And the idea is, can I add as much value up front, show that I'm an expert, and potentially could I add so much value that what I do for them pays for the first month of services together? If I could do that, the likelihood that they actually pay me goes way up. 5, follow up forever. And so this was a good kind of reframe where I was kind of afraid of just pestering people, bugging them. And the truth is, especially when you're working with business owners and founders, is they're very busy and forget about things. And so following up with them is usually a helpful thing, especially if you are smart about it. Instead of, you could, for example, say, hey, just checked out your LinkedIn profile. I know you mentioned you wanted to get started a couple of months ago. I see that you're posting once a week. Nice work on that. Really think it would help to jump to 5 times or 7 times per week. Like that could just be a little reminder and how you could touch bases with them. Let's see. Ferrari doesn't negotiate. So this was a good one where, especially when you're a newer service provider, you're kind of willing to do whatever it takes to land a client. And it puts you in a poor position and you have very little leverage. And so just being the type of person who won't negotiate, at least in the moment, is really powerful. So if you're going to give a discount, then that's okay. Just end the sales call, and then you could come back 3 days later and offer a discount, but always do it in return for something. So I'm willing to do this because I'd love to get a case study and a referral from you if we do a good job. Does that work okay for you? Something like that. Okay, next, over communicate everything. So this is just a great lesson for managing clients. When someone's paying you $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 per month, that's a lot of money that they're trusting you with, and they just want to know that you're thinking about them, that you're doing a good service. And so reaching out at least once a week, ideally more, letting them know what you're working on, gives them a lot of peace of mind. Next, not all recurring revenue is recurring. Okay, so this was a kind of unique to me because I love thinking about my business in terms of recurring revenue. We're at $30K a month, we're at $50K a month, we're at $60K a month, and acting as if it were going to be steady. The truth is it's not. No client stays forever, and this isn't software where you have 90% annual retention rate. The truth is, for most services, it's closer to 30% monthly churn. In my case, it's been better than that, fortunately, but still, it's not software. And so instead of thinking of it as, okay, I have these clients that are never going to leave, I'm at X MRR, it's almost better to think of it in terms of projects. So, okay, these first 3 months with a client, here's the objective. The first 6 months, here's the objective. And the goal is to keep them for that period of time. And so if they're paying you $3,000 per month and you want to keep them, for 6 months, then you could think of it as an $18K project. And then at the end of it, you need to resell them on staying with you for another 6 months, sell another $18K project. So I think that's a really valuable way to think about it for a lot of these kind of recurring services, and it'll actually increase your overall revenue. Okay, number 9, the power of one upsell. So if you're selling I have a client that I sold pretty early on. My prices are now around $5,000 per month, but at the time I was selling it at around $3,500 per month. And I remember that I was paying for a writer that was helping me fulfill on that client. And so at the end of the day, I was maybe making $2,500 or something. And I just sold I can't remember if it was a 5 or a 7.5K educational email course. And I got 3 months of profit up front for, what otherwise would have, taken 3 months to get. And it kind of blew my mind a little bit. And if you have clients, they are the most likely to keep paying you for existing services and for new potential problems and services that they have. And so building upsells around your client fulfillment makes a lot of sense. It can really boost your margins. Okay. Kind of talking about too many. So this is kind of the other side of the coin, which is if you sell too many services, it's a bad idea, because if I go and market myself as an expert in LinkedIn ghostwriting, but also Instagram real ghostwriting and YouTube script writing, and oh, I'm also great at email, and oh, you need me to do articles? Sure, I can do those. Thought leadership articles? Why not? Then no one's really going to believe that I'm an expert, first off. So the positioning gets really difficult. And second, if I am switching between writing speeches, ghostwriting speeches, and YouTube videos and short form tweets, then there's a ton of switching costs. And so if you're able to focus on maybe one one service up front. So in my case, that's LinkedIn ghostwriting. And then you don't have to tell everyone like, oh, I do LinkedIn ghostwriting and all these things, but you can tell your clients after they're working with you, oh, by the way, I see this other opportunity for you to collect emails and send a weekly newsletter. That's a great opportunity to sell them on it. And sure, if they want that up front, you can sell that as well. But there's just a lot of value to sticking to one service and maybe one upsell. Okay, number 11. It's better to have 5 clients paying you $5K per month than 10 clients paying you $2.5K per month. And so I experienced this a number of times, but having fewer clients that are paying you more tends to be much less stressful, much more doable, less time intensive. You have the margins to be able to delegate some of the work. Which means in general, you can get better results for each client because you're willing to invest the time and the money on their service. And at least, I do know some people who are able to scale $500 a month or $2K a month services really well, and props to them. I think that takes an operational machine, and the simpler path to getting to 20, 50, probably 100 a month is sticking with the higher paying clients. I'm just resetting. I've got my little timer right here that I do 60-minute increments. So we'll continue. Okay, packaging your services. So I don't sell 20 LinkedIn posts per month. I sell optimizing their profile, doing competitive research, sending monthly reports, holding weekly calls, handling engagement, sending connection requests, writing optimized hooks, creating media and carousels, all of that. And so it sounds very different if I were to say, I write 20 LinkedIn posts per month versus I do all of those things and it's just $5,000 per month. Selling the whole package where you're solving all of the problems so the person doesn't even have to think about it is far more valuable. Okay, next. I learned these ones on the PGA live calls. I just pulled up a Apple Notes where I'd taken notes on those calls. So, okay, next was inputs. So if you want more clients, you can post content, you can do outreach, you can run ads, or have others do that for you. That's it. So I really like how simple that is. And it's easy to track as well. Like, did I post today? Did I send 10 DMs or 50 DMs or whatever the number is that you're going for? Did I run any paid ads? I haven't done paid ads, but for me, it's been posting content, doing outreach, having others do that for me, or reaching out, doing outreach for potential partners. I guess the last thing here that I didn't put is asking clients for referrals, but it just makes it really simple. You want to get more clients, just do those things. And business can sometimes get too complicated when the answers are that simple. Okay. 14, rev shares are sometimes worth it, but often not worth it. So I talked about this earlier, where the people who want rev shares aren't the people you want to partner with in general. And then it increases the logistical complexity a lot, which is totally cool. Like, I think people that are amazing at what they do, and like I might go down this route in a year or two where I just try to have 5 clients and try to go as deep as I can with them. And, if I could add $100 or $200 or $300,000 per month to their businesses and take a 10 or 20% cut of that, it becomes very lucrative. And I know a few people who are doing this and doing it well, but a lot of times this is people who just want free work. They're not the people you'd want to do rev shares with in the first place. It's like you gotta go with the right horse if you're the right vehicle if you're going to do rev shares. Okay. 80% capacity is better than 100% capacity. So the idea here is if you're at 100% capacity, then you don't have any room to take a step back, think about how to improve things, how to be more efficient. If you're at 80% capacity, then you can use the extra 20% of space to think and continue to improve. I personally like it to be a little bit less even, 60%, which gives me a much more longer term focus and perspective. Okay, 16, quality outreach is better than mass outreach. So I'm not opposed to volume. I think volume's amazing, but it's been very effective when I've selected 10 individuals who I really want to work with. And then I'm very customized about the approach of how I'm going to reach out to them, sending a detailed loom, creating a pitch in public post, or any of the above. All right, then in the velocity curriculum, so this is the one that I was paying $2,000 per month for. These are some of the lessons I learned. So 17, hiring. When you hire, make sure that you know one task and one measurable outcome. A lot of times people will hire and they don't know why they're hiring. It's just like a catch-all, and that's usually a mistake. So knowing one outcome and one task, it's easier to track and see if they're doing it well. 18, so achieve 100% delegation with no input. So the problem is if you delegate 80% of a job and you have 5 employees, then suddenly you're handling 20% of 5 different employees and you have a full-time job just managing them and managing their tasks. And so even if it takes a little bit longer, it's worth delegating it 100%. 19, pause and breathe at different phases of growth. So this is a big problem that Cole made, where he just put every dollar back into the business. He never took money out, and he scaled it really fast to $180K a month, and then it all came crashing down. It's extremely stressful, and he ended up shutting his ghostwriting agency down with less money in his bank account than he had when he started it. And he learned a ton of lessons, so there's a lot of value there. And now he's, teaching people not to make the same mistakes he did, and he's getting paid very well to do it. So in a lot of ways, this did pay off. However, I wanted to actually learn from the lessons, and so I've been taking money out of the business every month. I've been trying to build systems and make it more efficient, and I've been reasonable about scaling and taking pauses and being okay with being at the same level for an extra month or two in order to hire an employee and train them in a way that's going to be really effective long-term. And so basically realizing I'm still at the beginning phases of entrepreneurship, and let me take this one step at a time, play the linear game before I play the exponential game. Okay, 20, your goal is not to build a big agency. Your goal is to make yourself rich. So most agencies at scale operate at 15 to 30% net margins. And, if they're doing 100 million a year, then you're in great shape. But, a lot of agencies that are doing $1 million or $2 million are operating at 15% margins. And so they're making maybe 150 or 300K per year. And that is pretty sad considering, you could probably make more than that as a solo freelancer. And yeah, if you could build some enterprise value and sell it, which, it's pretty rare to build a business that sells. And so I wouldn't depend on that. It's just worth thinking about how can this business actually make me rich? Because that's the purpose of the business. It's to, as many finance people would say, increase shareholder value, even if you're the solo shareholder. And so awesome if you want to build some enterprise value and create a sellable asset, but I'm not making that my number one bet of where I'll make my money. I want to make money along the way. And then if I ever sell, then awesome. Okay. 21. The ideal spot for an agency is $60K per month in revenue. I'm going to take a seat now. I'm realizing I'm not breathing as much, so I'm getting a little bit lightheaded while I'm speaking. Yeah. So $60K a month revenue. And this was really interesting. I'm not 100% set on this idea, but basically Cole's experience was that you have the most profit and the least stress at $60,000 per month, that as you scale, you have to just reinvest a lot more dollars into the business, which is fine. but it gets a lot more stressful and more difficult. And so this was really interesting. He was saying you could have 2 writers, you could have 2 account managers and 1 admin person and be making something like 40 to 50% margins. For me at this phase, at the 60K a month revenue phase, it looked like 2 full-time writers. I had 1 part-time writer as well, 1 account manager, 1 admin person. And for me, very feasible to pull 30 to 40K a month in profit on that 60K in revenue. And it feels sustainable because you only need to sell another 2 or 3 clients every month to maintain that revenue level. It looks like I skipped 22, so let's jump to 23. So after you reach the ideal agency size, Cole recommends adding 100% margin digital products to increase the defensibility and probability. And so this is actually something that I'm doing. But the idea here is if you start selling digital products, and they could be low ticket, like $100 or $350, or they could be cohort based, which is what I'm doing right now, then you position yourself as an expert. And a lot of those people who want the help actually end up becoming clients. And so it becomes a nice flywheel where you sell people, you get 100% margin on any digital products, and then you also have more defensibility with your business. Downsell for those who want to DIY, and upsell for those who want done for you help. And he thinks that's kind of the going from 60K in revenue to 100K in revenue, like that's the play. And that it pretty much every dollar of additional revenue will just drop to the net profit. And so I'm playing with this right now. And so far it's been a good experiment. I haven't fully experienced that, but excited to see how that goes. Oh, there's 22. Looks like I mixed those 2 up. Okay, hiring funnel and automation. So I basically post content that says I'm looking to hire. I have people go to a page and fill out an application, and then everyone who goes through who fills out an application is entered into an Airtable database, and I can see all the answers there, and then I'm able to just click and I probably should have added an image here, but I created a bunch of automations where I just hit like rejected or denied, and if the person, and it'll send them an email automatically. Or if I want to move them to the next stage, then I just click something and it sends them the email to move them to the next stage. But I do applications, then I do group interviews, and then I do a paid trial. It's worked out really well. All right. This was from live calls and one-on-one looms. So just speaking with Cole pretty much directly. So 23, wow, my counting here. Okay, we're doing 23 again. You can do way more volume than you think. So when Cole was running his agency, he was doing something like 12-hour days, Monday through Friday, and he was working Saturdays and often Sundays to try and catch up. And I was under the impression, so I read like Deep Work by Cal Newport. It's like, okay, how much deep work can I do? And I really thought 4 hours of deep work of writing was kind of my limit. And I very quickly proved myself wrong. So when I was ready when I started Velocity, I said the same thing to myself, like I need to make this investment turn into something profitable and fast. And so I went hard and I landed. So at one point I was working with 10 clients. I had no writers. The one writer I'd been working with decided to do something on his own. So I had 10 clients. I was doing X and LinkedIn, and I was writing for 2 of them every day, Monday through Friday. That's 15 tweets. That's 2 threads and 7 LinkedIn posts each week per client. There were a few that only did LinkedIn or only did X, so it wasn't the case with all of them, but pretty insane. And then on Saturdays and Sundays, like I was trying to do whatever else I could to just keep the business up and running, sales, marketing, all of that. And that was the hardest that I'd worked. I did it for 2 months. It was a little bit too much. I don't think I could have sustained it, but it did push my limits and realized, wow, I could do $35,000, $40,000 per month in revenue by myself with no team. And that was my actual capacity. All right. Next, bottleneck analysis. So this is something that Dickie talks about a lot, but you can only have one business bottleneck at a time. So there's one thing that's constraining your business. For most business owners that are like small business owners, it's leads. But for others, it's being able to find the talent. It could be any number of things. And so recognizing what that is and focusing on it is very important. Then 25, spend a lot of time with new employees. It makes for a far better long-term business. So I hired one writer in January of 2023, and we did daily 30-minute calls for 2 months. And this was incredibly helpful for getting to know him and for helping him get aligned on our process. And now he's an absolute killer, still working with me like 18 months later. And he's somebody that I'd love working with for the next decade. It's the benefit of not being in such a huge rush is you can really train people. All right, 26, building inbound is great, but being able to flex the outbound muscles makes you unstoppable. So because I'm a content agency owner, I see every problem as can I just create content and solve that problem? But I realize that developing the skill of turning cold prospects into customers is a complete business hack if you can do that on repeat and consistently. And it's fortunately a skill I've been able to acquire. And whenever I really just need an extra client, I can go hit the outbound machine for a couple of days and come out with a client. 27, make every decision around whether it increases your take-home pay. So this is a great filter for making decisions. Like, why are you going to scale from $50K a month to $100K a month if your take-home pay remains the same? Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense unless you're trying to scale, unless you're trying to sell your business. Then it can make a little bit more sense, but it's really worth thinking about. Like, what makes a business valuable, unless you're a tech startup that has some AI products, is the profit that the business produces consistently. And so keeping that top of mind is a great filter for decision making. 28, consistent lead flow is important even when you're at full capacity. So it's really easy to get busy with client work and take your foot off the marketing gas pedal, but that's been a mistake every time I've done it, and I've done it a few times, because you never know. You might lose 3 clients in a month if you have 10, and suddenly you've got a lot of capacity to fill and you've got no lead flow. A lot of these B2B businesses like mine, there's usually a little bit of a delay. Like if I go hard on marketing and sales, there's like a 3 to 6 week delay between when I start seeing those results. And so you don't often see the lack of results immediately, but they do come if you stop doing the activities. So just keep doing the sales and marketing activities. It's a lesson there. And you always, you have more leverage if you have pipeline. You can say no to people. You could choose who you want to work with. You can charge more. It's just a valuable thing to have. All right, 29, periodically review sales calls and note the phrases prospects like and react to the very most. So that's something Cole mentioned I should go do, is like go review my past 10 sales calls. Look for when people are like, or they're like, yeah, that's great. Or their eyes light up. And when I say something, and just write down the phrases I said that cause those reactions. And now I use those on most of my sales calls. So it's been very valuable. Okay, so most people think of the idea of content compounding, but they don't think of cold outreach compounding. And so the idea here is that as you reach out, let's say to 100 people every week, then after a year, that's 5,200 people. And a lot of those people weren't ready to buy your product or service then, but maybe they are now. And so they might reach back out to you. And you also have a lot more people you can reach back out to that you already kind of know, or maybe there's been a little bit of conversation. And so this actually does compound, and it's something that I didn't think about. Okay, so this was a good one. And I guess I think I learned this one just on my own, but maybe Cole mentioned it to me. So if I have 10 clients and I make all of their due dates on Friday, what's going to happen? Thursday is going to come around and I'm going to be like, crap, I haven't done the work that I need to. And the next 48 hours are going to be miserable. So instead, what's smarter to do is have one client due on Monday, one client due on Tuesday, one client due on Wednesday, and so on and so forth. And it just makes you be more accountable and not procrastinate. So very helpful. 32, daily feedback loops for new team members. So this kind of goes with that training at the beginning, but When you're getting someone up to speed, if you're able to give them daily feedback loops, it's so much faster. Okay, 33, don't get married to the ups or the downs. I often have my revenue swing by 20 or 30 or sometimes even 50% each month. And so I feel like I'm on top of the world, and then I feel like my business is going to go under. And so learning how to just emotionally regulate yourself is a skill, and be okay with the ups and the downs. 34, a lot of clients don't know what they want. So I one time got introduced to someone that wanted articles, but I sell LinkedIn content. So I was like, I'm probably not a good fit for you. But I got feedback from Cole on this, and he's like, all the people that I sold on articles wanted to write books. They didn't want to write articles. And I would just ask them, have you tested your book ideas by writing online yet? And they'd say no, and he'd sell his writing online service. And so just because people think that they want a newsletter doesn't mean that they won't want social content. And so it's worth hopping on a call and talking them through the problem, diagnosing the problem, and talking them through different potential solutions. 35, you can delegate any role. So I was scared that I had built these amazing relationships with clients, and handing them off to an account manager was going to ruin my business. But I hired an account manager, and within a month, he was taking all the client calls instead of me, and has been a huge time saver. So you can delegate roles that you might have a hard time believing that you can delegate. 36, this was a good one. Very tactical. So 2 types of client edits of the content we ghostwrite. So the first is style. If it's a style issue, then you can either fix the writing or you can fix the expectations. So you like what's being said, you just don't like how it's being said. And the second is a content issue where what we're saying is incorrect. We're just not getting the idea right. And so asking a client which of these problems it is really helps you identify how you can fix it. 37, take out as much cash as you need from your business to feel secure personally so that you can take more risk inside your business. So this was a very good lesson that I am applying. And I spent some months really pushing hard to grow the business, and Cole has reminded me periodically to slow down, take a deep breath, and extract more money from the business. I'm not at a point where I feel quote unquote financially secure yet, and like I could go and take a huge swing. And I'm in a path right now where I will become a guaranteed millionaire, and relatively quickly. So it makes a lot of sense to quote unquote secure the bag and then take bigger risks afterward. One other thought on this is I spoke with one of my clients, very smart guy, and he's taking massive risks within his business, acquiring businesses. He has got a couple $1 million in debt on businesses he's acquired. And I asked him how he had the guts to go and do stuff like that. And what he did was he figured out how much money he would need to retire in today's dollars and feel like he'd never need to work another day in his life. And then he looked at his age right now. So say he's 30, and he said, okay, in 35 years, so at age 65, I need to have that much money adjusted for inflation. And so he looked and he backtracked and found what's the number of dollars I need invested in the S&P 500 index fund today that after inflation at age 65, I could retire. And that way, if he never touched that money, he'd be good to retire. And all he had to do was cover his monthly expenses. And I love that approach. And so it's something that I've also done. And I'm not quite to that number that I need yet, but I'm getting there, and hopefully within the next 12 or so months, we'll be there. So highly recommend taking that approach. 38, consultant, not vendor. So I remind myself of this often because there's a lot of LinkedIn ghostwriters, LinkedIn experts out there, and there's a lot of people that are just going to write your post for you, or there's a lot of people that are just going to run your ads for you. And in a competitive landscape, you become a commodity if that's all you do. But if you're a strategic thinker and you can tell clients like why what they're doing is wrong, and you can be a strategist, then you're far more valuable and more differentiated. 39, build defensibility into the business. So it's amazing to hit capacity. So like what I've done is I'll take up to 15 clients and no more beyond that, and then build a wait list. And I will say at times, like I've gone below that. And so I need to get back up to there. But if you build an audience, you build some IP, like there's different ways that you can build defensibility into your business. And then if you just want to take 2 clients every month, you have a wait list of 10 people, you're in a great position to do that and to continue to grow that wait list and just be a boutique premium agency. Okay, 40. The biggest benefit to working with massive clients is desensitizing you from being in those rooms. So I landed a huge client. You'd probably know who the person is. And that was Cole's kind of advice to me. He's like, hey, look, it's really cool to work with these people, but the biggest lesson you're going to learn, the most valuable thing is feeling comfortable in high status rooms. And I really like that advice, and now feel much more comfortable hopping on calls with other big creators, business owners, etc. Number 41, you're not being a nuisance. So this kind of goes back to cold outreach, or like actually that big client that I just mentioned that I was working with. I needed some inputs from the person, and I was worried about bothering them because I needed those things. But I just had to remind myself, okay, these people are incredibly busy. They want me to succeed because me succeeding means they succeed, and I need to get what I need to get from them. And so make it as easy as possible for them, but I'm trying to help them. So don't feel weird about reminding them. The busiest people need the most reminders. And then last but not least, 42, pay in time or pay in dollars when it comes to hiring. And so I've done both. And basically what this means is you can pay in time and you could train somebody to be as good as you need them to be, or you can just pay a premium for someone that already has the experience and is already as good as you need them to be. Like I said, I've done both. And in my experience, it's not worth hiring people that don't know, have never had any experience, and you have to train them from scratch. Probably depends on the role, but when it comes to writers or account managers, I'd much rather just hire trained people and pay them a premium. Especially as you start getting a bigger business, it just makes more sense financially. Your time is worth more. So that is everything. I hope you enjoyed this. If you want this document, I'm going to drop it as the first link in the description. And you're able to have this, and then you could just save it and refer back to it if this was helpful to you and you don't want to, rewatch this video. But yeah, I hope this was helpful. These are a lot of the lessons that I've learned over the past couple of years, and I'm still learning every day and trying to become a better business owner. But yeah, drop me a subscribe if this was helpful, and I'll continue making videos like this for you.